Coming up tonight on YCN News, it was a windy night across the Twin State region. 3 college students were rescued in New Hampshire, and local tax rates are being discussed in Hartford, Vermont. For more news, weather, and sports, it's time for YCN, your local view.
Now, your daily digest of the Dartmouth Lake Sunapee region, southern Vermont, and Windsor County. News, sports, weather, and all that is happening in our area. The news on YCN, your local view.
Good evening. It's Wednesday, March 18th. I'm Laura James. Welcome to YCN News. High winds made their presence known around the region yesterday and last night, causing power outages and damage to homes and businesses. YCN News spoke with Martin Murray of Eversource Energy, formerly Public Service Company of New Hampshire. And according to Murray, Eversource experienced a significant number of customer outages last night. Now, for the most part, the outages were south of the Notches. The most significant number of outages were in and around Bedford, Epping, and Rochester. A peak of about 24,000 customers were without power. That occurred about 7 p.m. last night. Eversource crews had reduced that number to about 4,500 customers by about 11 p.m. last night. Now, according to Murray, today crews were still at work on several hundred new remaining or new outages that were scattered around the state. Eversource crews from Massachusetts traveled to New Hampshire to relieve those crew members who had worked throughout the night. And also in Claremont, the e-ticker reports high winds yesterday afternoon tore the top off of the Dickinson block and caused this damage on the square in Claremont, New Hampshire. The Claremont Fire Department checked to be sure the brickwork was safe, and while no injuries were reported, the sidewalk was blocked off while assessment of the damage was being completed. Well, it was a rescue made just in time for 3 University of Massachusetts Amherst students hiking in New Hampshire yesterday. The Associated Press reports they were rescued after one started suffering from hypothermia with temperatures in the teens and strong winds. State Fish and Game officers received the 911 call at about 6 p.m. yesterday. The hikers told dispatchers they were in the Sandwich Range Wilderness area. Now, one of the students had his companions put him in a sleeping bag and tent, and then they called 911. 4 officers and 11 volunteers hiked the 3.5 miles through rugged terrain and deep snowpack, reaching the hikers at about 1:30 this morning. They were eventually able to hike out to the trailhead at about 5 a.m. No injuries were reported. Well, while many were celebrating the wearing of the green yesterday, 2 Republican presidential hopefuls took playful shots at their better-known, better-funded GOP rivals at an annual St. Patrick's Day breakfast roast in New Hampshire. George Pataki, a former New York governor, and Lindsey Graham, a U.S. senator from South Carolina, enjoyed poking fun at their rivals and plan to spend a lot of time in New Hampshire over the next few months. That, according to the Associated Press. Both Republican hopefuls will be trying to build the support and financial backing needed to mount a bid for the Republican presidential nomination in 2016. In fact, one quote from Lindsey Graham included mention of Jeb Bush, stating it was good Jeb couldn't be there because their plates would have cost $10,000 each. Pataki had visited the state about a half dozen times this year, while Graham made his first trip last week. Yesterday, Graham referenced his good friend and 2-time New Hampshire primary winner, Arizona Senator John McCain, saying he was his best and, quite frankly, only supporter. While spending most of their time roasting their potential rivals, Graham and Pataki themselves were also the focus of jokes. New Hampshire Governor Maggie Hassan needled Graham for his recent statement that he's never sent an email, and Pataki for his perennial exploration of a presidential candidacy. Graham, she said, is different from former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton in 2 ways: experience with email and the realistic possibility of being president. The lighthearted remarks from both Pataki and Graham at times hit upon serious problems faced by their potential rivals. Pataki, for example, took multiple jabs at New Jersey Governor Chris Christie when talking about Hassan's desire to bring a casino to the Granite State. Well, local tax rates are the focus of Hartford, Vermont property owners as town officials are drawing up a new town budget after voters rejected a proposed $15.7 million budget. Now, if that budget had been approved, taxes would have gone up about 9%. That increase is being whittled down to 6 to 8%, according to the Valley News. Voters on town meeting day turned down the budget, 931 to 676. Voters also turned down the school budget, which featured a bottom line sum of $36.1 million. That figure would have increased voters' school taxes by nearly 4%. School administrators are also refiguring the budget aiming to keep spending increases under 3%. Hartford residents will debate the newly suggested spending plan during a Saturday, March 28th floor meeting. And in Brattleboro, Vermont, town meeting representatives will meet Saturday to determine if a proposed $15.5 million budget is right for the town. One item removed from the budget elected town meeting reps will review is a combined police and fire public safety building. Funding for this new building project remains on hold. Well, up next, nearly 50 Springfield High School students organized a walkout. We'll tell you why, and it may have sounded like a train whistling past your home last night. Mike will be by with a little bit of a calmer forecast, we hope. He'll check sports too when YCN News returns.
The YCN News continues in a moment.
Welcome back to YCN News. I'm Laura James. Over in Vermont, students at Springfield High School staged a walkout today in a show of support for their ousted varsity football coach, Gary Harris. Sources confirmed to YCN News that approximately 50 students left the school at about 11:30 a.m. and walked into the superintendent's office before gathering downtown. Harris was a first-year coach for the Cosmos this past fall, but his contract wasn't renewed after school officials became aware of allegedly racist text messages Harris had sent to a former assistant coach. Harris spoke to his own defense along with dozens of supporters during Monday night's school board meeting, but Superintendent Zach McLaughlin declined to comment on the personnel issue. Springfield won 2 games last season in Harris's first year at the helm after suffering 3 straight winless seasons. Well, police say a 73-year-old man involved in a nearly 19-hour standoff with police in Chesterfield, New Hampshire, has surrendered. That, according to the Associated Press, the man whose name was not released was arraigned this afternoon. The standoff started Tuesday afternoon. It was not immediately known if shots were fired or if anyone was hurt. The standoff drew state and local police. Well, a controlled burn this Saturday in Lebanon, New Hampshire will give Upper Valley firefighters valuable experience. Firefighters from Lebanon and Hanover, New Hampshire, and Hartford, Vermont will conduct live fire training experience on an acquired single-family dwelling on Evans Drive. Training begins at 7 a.m. and is expected to continue until 3 p.m. Several small fires will be set and extinguished as part of the training. Traffic on Evans Drive will be interrupted on Saturday. Access to local businesses will not be affected. Any questions related to Saturday's training plan should be directed to Lebanon's Assistant Fire Chief, Jeffrey Libby, at 603-448-8810. Well, that snow is melting slowly and the ground is becoming water saturated. Gravel and loose dirt can make for tough driving in spots, and an accident yesterday evening on Putney Mountain Road in Putney demonstrates this. Skies were overcast. Wet gravel covered the road minutes before 5:30 p.m. A car driven by a Dummerston, Vermont woman was totaled when the driver lost control of her car after hitting a car in a snowbank on the edge of the road. The car flipped over and became to rest on its roof. 22-year-old Rebecca Carrylow was wearing a seatbelt, however, driving around 35 miles per hour, say police. She was not injured. Carrylow's 2001 Honda Civic was totaled. Well, it's not every day that police want to learn the identity of a suspect for littering, but Vermont State Police want to know who's been consistently leaving trash along Old West Road in Arlington for the last several weeks. Police say they have some leads onto who's dumping that trash based on evidence left behind. Anyone with information who is littering on Old West Road is encouraged to call State Police at 802-442-5421. When YCN News returns, Kearsarge Chronicles' Lynn Solomon will be by. She spoke with Robin Luther and Nancy Evans of the UNH for Cooperative Extension. That interview is coming up.
The YCN News continues in a moment.
Welcome back to YCN News. So what do you say we get to it right now with a check of that forecast? Mike?
Thanks, Laura. It certainly was a windy one out there today, and it looks like that trend will continue into the evening and tomorrow. Temperatures will dip down to 10 degrees tonight with partly cloudy skies and winds between 10 to 15 miles per hour. There could be gusts of up to 30 miles per hour at times, creating wind chills well below zero. Tomorrow will be sunny with a high of 29 degrees and a low of 9. Winds will remain strong at 10 to 15 miles per hour with gusts of up to 25 before things finally begin to calm down in the evening. Friday will bring partly sunny skies with a high of 33 and low of 24, and a 40% chance of snow showers Friday night. Now let's take a look at our community calendar to see what's happening in the area. AARP is sponsoring free income tax preparation tomorrow from 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. at the Senior Center on Main Street in Newport, New Hampshire. Representatives will offer filing assistance for low to moderate income households. Call 603-863-3177 to make an appointment. The Dunbar Free Library on Route 10 in Grantham, New Hampshire is holding its weekly preschool story time tomorrow from 10 to 11 a.m. There will be stories and crafts for children up to 3 years old at no charge. The Woodstock Town Hall Theatre in Woodstock, Vermont is showing the 1975 film One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. as part of the Pentagle's Throwback Thursday movie series. There is no cost to attend. Basketball season isn't quite over in New Hampshire with the Division I and II championships slated for Saturday afternoon, but that didn't stop the state from releasing its all-state teams earlier this week. Today we'll focus on the 8 girls from area schools that were selected in their respective divisions. Both the Hanover and Lebanon girls basketball teams were represented in Division II, with senior guard Julia Daniel earning first-team honors after leading the Marauders to an 11-9 record and a spot in the quarterfinals, and senior center Vanessa Fleury landing a spot on the second team after helping the Raiders to a 13-6 record and a number 7 tournament seed. In Division III, Fall Mountain was represented twice as seniors Peyton Alberg and Morgan Furland were named to the second team. Alberg averaged more than 11 points and 14 rebounds per game for the Wildcats, followed closely by Furland with 10 points and 13 rebounds per game. Newport's Stephanie Carl earned honorable mention honors as she averaged a hair over 12 points and rebounds per game. Division IV had 3 representatives from the unbeaten champs in Sunapee, as Lexi Hamilton and Katie Frederick were named to the first team and Faith Larpenter was selected to the second team. Hamilton led the Lakers with 7 assists in the title game to complement her 10 points, while Frederick wowed those in attendance with a game-high 25 points and 37 rebounds. Larpenter was the second leading scorer for the eventual champs in the title game, finishing with 13 points and 8 rebounds. Be sure to check out Friday's broadcast when we highlight the 9 area boys who earned all-state honors. Now, Laura, back to you.
Thanks so much, Mike. It was a beautifully sunny day and an outside interview as YCN's Capital Connections' John O'Connor sat down with former U.S. Ambassador Peter Galbraith, and we'll bring you the next part of that encore interview when YCN News continues.
The YCN News continues in a moment.